Do Chelsea have a total agreement in place with Erling Haaland to join this summer? Talks continue with players such as Traore and Lukaku. Chelsea have reportedly also entered the race to sign Raphael Varane, but face some of the same problems that Manchester United do. All that and much, much more. Hit the like button, share button. Here we go. Good morning and welcome back to the Terrace. Lots of interesting Chelsea news circulating this morning. Centre-backs, full-backs, and of course, the striker pursuit continues. But what of it should we be listening to? Where are things really at? So I've had a conversation over the last 24 hours or so with just a couple of journalists behind the scenes. What's happening? What's going on? Has there been any movement? The Raphael Varane one is a real interesting one that we'll jump into because, of course, France leaving the tournament early maybe changes the speed of that transfer. We all expected him to be involved into at least the 11th of July and maybe a 7-day, 10-day, 14-day holiday, and then his transfer situation to really pick up pace. That has now been, of course, elevated. There's also some reports that have been seen, and they vary on Haaland, from having total agreements in place on personal terms right down to just tentative talks, nothing really much going on in this space. And I wanted to delve into those stories with a little bit more detail with you, tell you what's being said, gauge your opinion, express mine as well, and discuss it in its entirety. But do me a massive favor this morning and smash that like button. Subscribe to the Football Terrace. Remember, what is our job here? We aggregate the news that's trending, that's being put out there by certain journalists, and we give you the chance to have your say on it. That's what the Football Terrace is there for. So make sure you get yourselves involved. Lots of it's coming homes circulating this morning. Yes, with X's and everything else surrounding it. Is football coming home? Well, football will be home because the final's being played in England. So whatever happens, it is going to be done. And that'll be an amazing thing for England and the United Kingdom to have here. But it could do. Listen, England are one of the favourites now for this tournament, in my opinion. Not the favourites, but one of the favourites, there's no doubt. Respect to Ukraine. That's the next game now. That's what we focus on. But I did tweet this morning, actually, that I don't think some people have comprehended the significance of last night. Euro 96 is spoken about all the time. That Gaza goal, the 4-1 victory over Holland, the penalty shootout against Spain, the horrible semi-final defeat. It was a legacy tournament. And we speak about this a lot on the Terrace, how football players are driven by, a lot of them are driven by legacy. Raheem Sterling, Harry Maguire, Pickford, the substitution of Grealish at the right time by Southgate. These are legacy moments in a game, the best knockout performance from England and result to boot since 1966. Yes, we've beaten teams and had really good performances in the knockout stages at other tournaments between now and then, but never a team with the caliber and pedigree of Germany. We're the first team ever to stop Germany to knock Germany out at the knockout stage of a tournament before the semi-finals. It was phenomenal. So yeah, it's a beautiful morning for the English game. Very, very happy indeed. David here says, good morning, Terry. I don't even remember what the Euro trophy looks like. I'll wait to see when Harry Kane lifts it. I think the final is a must now. This squad could really kick on. It could kick on from this point, and that's what you've got to, be hoping for as a nation. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Let's start on the Haaland news this morning, because this news, I've seen some kind of snippets of it. I spoke to a journalist this morning who said that he believes that a total agreement is in place. The total agreement is very much player and club. There have been talks between Roman Abramovich, Chelsea Football Club, and Haaland's representatives for a while. It is believed by Haaland's representatives that Chelsea are the most serious and most keen club to sign him this summer. What's also been sort of a positive response is the fact that there's going to be a 4-year +1 deal offered to Haaland, and Chelsea are willing to meet the salary demands, the bonuses, the incentives, the image rights, and of course the agent fee elements of this deal. That's where the total agreement has been reported, that Haaland is completely bought into the idea of playing for Chelsea. All it comes down to now is Chelsea and Dortmund negotiating situation. What we already know about that is Chelsea are not holding back per se, but all clubs are trying to gain some clarity around the relaxing of financial fair play, both domestically and from an international standpoint. It is believed that the rules are being relaxed to a point where more personal wealth can be invested into football clubs than under the previous or the rules as they're generally governed. Now, Chelsea are doing their work as to whether or not this is going to be plausible or not. Because the last thing you want to do is pump an extra £100 million of your own personal cash in, only for later on down the line that to be something that gets you banned from the Champions League or other types of sanctions and punishments in that way. So as far as it's been reported by some journalists, especially on the continent, is that a total agreement or personal terms are agreed, or there'll be no problems with personal terms, whichever way around you want to phrase it and believe it. I just believe they're all one of the same thing. If Haaland says, I want X, Y, and Z to sign for you, and Chelsea say, absolutely, we'll give that, and Haaland's camp say, brilliant, that's agreed then, all of those things are true. Personal terms are agreed. It is a total agreement. Personal terms are no problem. They're all much of a muchness. It becomes about semantics. What I also think you're going to probably see in the next few days in relation to this Chelsea news around Haaland is you may get some of the journalists who are closer to Chelsea play it down. They may talk about, there's not really been any major talks. Chelsea are looking at other options. I think they're going to try and play down the priority element of Haaland to a certain degree, or at least the level of work that Chelsea are putting into it. That's because this deal might not go through. Maybe the FFP relaxing of the rules isn't as extreme as Chelsea needed to be. Maybe Dortmund are even more resolute than anybody else thinks. Maybe they will turn down 160, 170, 180 million euros and point blank refuse to do it. Chelsea Football Club are never publicly, and this is why their tier ones will back them, they're never going to go so far into a rabbit hole where they get egg on their face at the end of it. They're far too cute, they're far too clever, and they're far too good in the transfer market to do that. PR is, of course, important. How you come out smelling from a situation is important. But as far as I'm aware, Chelsea are massively focused on trying to bring Haaland to the club. Personal terms, and we'll use all three, are in total agreement. There are no problems. They are agreed. He will join Chelsea. Chelsea are also the most aggressive and done the most productive work in trying to sign him. It's just now putting together the package and the bid for Dortmund. It's expected to come in at some point in this summer. I think Chelsea will leave it maybe into a week or so before the reported deadline, which is when Dortmund go away on their preseason training camp, which is about the 23rd, 24th of July. So we're still looking over 3 weeks away for that. But I think it's in a very good and very strong position for Chelsea. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Let's have a look at some of these super chats that have come in here this morning. Look at how our country is all about club rivalry, no team cohesion and individuals. We can finally see everyone is playing as a unit. Might not be pretty, but it's effective. All playing as one. Do you know what, Mark? Let me just, I always respond to the super chats regardless of the subject matter we're on. Let me just say this. England's football last night wasn't ugly. England's football last night wasn't yuck, wasn't horrible. It was, in my opinion, excellent. And of course, imagine we were more open and expansive and we lose. It's crazy for me. And I can't understand. Last night's football match as well, for me as a football fan, the chess game element of it was intriguing. Man for man, mirroring systems. Their fullbacks would push forward and we would go to a flat back five when defending. The reverse would happen the other way around. We both had spells in the game where we were good. I actually saw some journalists tweeting, this is just two poor teams. I just thought to myself, you're mad. Look how Germany absolutely ripped Portugal apart in this tournament. Yeah, they were caught on the hop twice against Hungary, They dominated Hungary in terms of the ball, the amount of times they opened them up. They even, in my opinion, opened France up a lot more than they did us. The fact that we nullified them to very little, one good Werner chance, one good shot from distance from Kai Havertz. And the reason that Muller had his chance is because just for one split second, man like Raheem Sterling made a mistake. It was a brilliant, brilliant night. Terry, what does tentative mean? Tentative's an interesting phrase when it comes to talks around a player, because tentative is sort of unconfirmed, preliminary, I suppose you could say. It is like small talks. It's like almost just like, oh yeah, we had a little chat. I sent a text to see if Haaland would be interested. Tentative, It means lots of things. It can mean cautious talks. Does that make sense? I would say it's more around sort of preliminary is what it'd be used as. But I think that's what the Chelsea tier ones are going to push out very, very soon. And that's because Chelsea tier ones have a responsibility to the club. They care about Chelsea Football Club, whether from a supporter standpoint or a business standpoint. So they will report the news that Chelsea wants to come out at this point in time. We have another super chat that's come through here. This is from Shane, who says, Terry, any thoughts, any truth in Pogba falling out with his teammates, getting the blame for the loss? I can't understand it, though. He was top class. I don't know if that's true. I saw a few messages about it last night. To be honest, I'm not interested. I wasn't interested last night because England were playing. You probably find that there were arguments. That's normal, I think. I think if England would have conceded last night to Muller's goal, and then Germany knock us out on penalties, I would expect a player or two to have a go at Raheem Sterling. That's how it should be. The players, they talk to each other like that. It's a highly intense, pressured environment. There should be those moments. Pogba should be condemned for that, as an example. The same as the defense need to be slammed for some of the goals. There's blame in all areas here. But what you'll find is they'll pull on the Pogba element because it will sell more newspapers. Does that make sense? And I don't think it would have been everyone ganging up on Paul Pogba if it indeed happened in that way. Terry, what's your thoughts on Spinazzola to Chelsea? My view is typical rumour at a tournament when it's going well. You've got Chilwell. Do I see Spinazzola coming to be back up to Chilwell? I'm not convinced. I think it's a Euro 2020 rumour at this moment in time. That's my thoughts. There we go. Terry can't pronounce Havertz. Is it? I thought it was pronounced. I was just going to say Kai then. Kai Havertz. That's how I pronounce it. If it's wrong, sue me. Any updates on Liverpool transfers, Terry? Loving the shows lately. Love and blessings. Nothing really. There's loose links to Coman. There's links to John McGinn. I keep seeing articles about Mbappe, but that one keeps being written off by some of the tier ones. There's nothing major coming out of Liverpool, but that would tell me something is brewing. That would tell me there is something certainly brewing in that space. I want to speak about Raphael Varane. Raphael Varane to Chelsea. It's a deal that they've been circling around for a long time now, Chelsea. There is no doubt about it. Now, Chelsea, we know, are delaying an agreement over a new contract for Rudiger. It's proposed to be costing about an extra £40,000 a week. The German centre-back is currently on about 140, 150. That's looking to increase to about 180, 190. Talks were pushed back by the club. But Thomas Tuchel, of course, has ensured the Chelsea board that Rudiger is a big and an important part of his plans. The article goes on to say that it's now understood that the player and his representatives realise they are now in a strong position in negotiations and are now pushing for a figure close to £200,000 a week. It says after winning the Champions League in May, Rudiger made it clear that he wanted a little time to think about how he would move forward in his career, with his current contracts expected to expire in 2022. He says that Chelsea are considering another defender in this window too, and have been in touch with Raphael Varane's agents and representatives. Of course, we know that Varane still hasn't agreed terms with Real Madrid. What is interesting, and this is what I believe to be true, is that Chelsea are in exactly the same position as Manchester United. They are just not fully convinced that Raphael Varane even really wants to leave Real Madrid. And that's feedback that's come back now from two separate sources at Man United and Chelsea, both into Dean Jones, that both Chelsea and Man United are unsure as to whether or not the player truly in his heart of hearts wants to join a Premier League club. Yes, he's moved his agency to London. But look, they're just a CAA based. They're an extremely good agency. They represent a lot of good people. So it's almost not a shock that he's done that. Maybe that puts a little bit more pressure again on Real Madrid to try and get a deal done. PSG, of course, circulating as well. Chelsea have been heavily linked with Jules Koundé for months now. We were one of the first outlets of any capacity to really break this news. But Chelsea are a little bit like Man United in this situation. They're looking at Pau Torres, they're looking at Koundé. Raphael Varane would be the star-studded name they want to bring in. They don't want to act. They don't want to move on the Koundés, on the Pau Torreses just yet, in case the Raphael Varane situation transpires as being completely doable, essentially 100% attainable. If they go and sign a Pau Torres, if they go and sign a Koundé, and then 100% Raphael Varane is leaving Real Madrid, they may have bolted and shut out the traps a little bit too early. So there have been Raphael Varane talks. I would say centre-back wise when it comes to Chelsea, the same with Man United. Just watch this space for the next 2 to 3 weeks in relation to those positions. I don't think it's almost like a case that nobody wants to act too soon. Nobody wants to be the first to make the move. And I know it's going to sound harsh, but Koundé and Pau Torres are probably going to cost £20 million plus more than Raphael Varane, and they're neither are at his standard. So it makes sense for Chelsea, for Man United, and even PSG to a large extent to sit back and wait for those situations to transpire and move forward. So it's very good work being done by Chelsea at the moment, both in their pursuit of Haaland and in their pursuit of Raphael Varane. My advice to Chelsea fans is just remain relaxed. Don't get yourselves overtly stressed out or frustrated about it taking time. You're notoriously late bidders. You won't bid for a player officially unless you know you can get it done. You're working very, very hard behind the scenes in relation to Haaland. There's just no doubt about that in my mind whatsoever. Just none. I completely and utterly think that's going to be the case. Let's take a look at some comments here. I see a few people saying they're hearing today that Camavinga might go to PSG. Listen, as I said to you all, that's a lie. As Dean said to everybody on Monday's Done Deal show, he spoke to people in France. He spoke to people very close to the situation with Camavinga. And yes, Man United have had talks. Yes, Arsenal have shown interest. But it's highly anticipated that he will stay in France. It's highly anticipated that he would stay in France. So I honestly implore you to watch the Done Deal shows in their entirety, because it's not just quick, fast, edited transfer news. It's deep discussions. And Dean, as I mentioned before, has a lot of contacts at a lot of clubs, and he won't hype something up if there's nothing really true about it. Now, things can change over the course of time. Remember, I might speak to Dean on the show here on a Monday or a Tuesday. His information might have come from a conversation he had the previous Wednesday or Thursday, and something has changed in that time. So, these things, it's a bit like a lot of people gave us stick because there was a comment that was made on the show about Hakimi would pick Chelsea over PSG. But you've got to listen to everything that was said. What was said by both Pete O'Rourke and by Dean Jones is, if Chelsea and PSG offer the same money and the same package to Hakimi would pick Chelsea. But of course, PSG pay 30 million more and offered him about 100 grand a week more in salary. So you've got to understand, people don't often listen to the full information. They listen to the elements that excite them and not the bits that are a worry or a concern. If you were listening to what Dean Jones said, you'd have understood that actually, if PSG offer more money, we're likely to not get him. And I think that's what's really important when it comes to these transfer situations. Do me a big favor, please, this morning, everyone. Hit that like button for us. I want to go through some more of your comments here. Remember, we've already had a few people do it. Anybody who puts a super chat in over the value of £5 or becomes an official member of the Football Terrace will go into the June prize draw to win a football shirt of your choice. So, we're the best. If you like super chatting, we're the best football station for you to put those super chats in, because there is an opportunity. One, we actually interact with all your super chats, but also on top of that, you get the chance to win a prize back. There's something in it for you as well. We're going to open up the lines now for you to come on and have your say. I want to know what you're thinking and you're feeling. We're going to stick the link in the Chelsea chat room on our Discord server. So if you're not a Discord user of the Football Terrace, use the invitation link in the description below to get that sorted. Breaking news from update here from Fabrizio. It says here that Tottenham are working on a contract details in order to appoint Nuno Espirito Santo as their new manager. He's open to considering the Spurs job. Fabrizio Pedatici arriving in London yesterday. He is pushing to complete the agreement. He also wanted Nuno at Juve a year ago. Nuno Espirito Santo, I've met him. He's a wonderful man. I think it'll be a great appointment for Tottenham if it's true. A great appointment for Tottenham if it does indeed turn out to be true. So that is excellent. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. And of course, Patson Daka to Leicester City. Here we go. Also announced he is a Leicester City player. So a massive, massive congratulations to him for getting that sorted, for getting that done. As I've said, I'm going to go into the Chelsea chat room now. I'm going to share the link for you all to come on and have your say with us right now on the Football Terrace about, we're talking Chelsea news, but if we want to speak about some other factors, absolutely fine to get that done. Get your super chat questions in as well. Terry, have you ordered the Laserhusen? I'm going to get them ordered today, actually. It's on my to-do list to get done. Thanks to everybody that donated. We're going to be putting those super chats towards the Bobby Moore Foundation. We will be getting that done and that dusted. Another update for you just on Jadon Sancho. I know if you may or may not have seen our stream from last night. If you haven't seen our stream, do you know what I'll do? I'm going to share you the link, bruv. I'm going to share you the link. That's what we're going to do from last night. Go check it out. Again, had a conversation with a couple of journalists last night that I know and that I've got a good relationship with, and they are beyond adamant, absolutely beyond adamant that the deal is done, is dusted, is over the line, as it were. The reason that it's not even being delayed now. It's just about the football club. This is Man United we're talking about here. Realizing what they want to do. They have to because they want to make a big announcement. They don't want the buzz to go away. Do we just put a holding statement out via Twitter, via the website, via Instagram, almost like a 1 or 2 line update that we've come to an arrangement and an agreement, and then do a big announcement later on down the line? I think that's what they're going to want to do for signing of this magnitude. If you want the full update, I've just posted that link in the comment section below. So yeah, a lot of you asking about the Sancho update. What was interesting is we went live with that news, and just as we finished, there was a big update from Fabrizio Romano that said the final details will be discussed in the coming hours. Those final details are the last few pieces of legality and how best to announce the situation, which is very, very important now when it comes to these kind of signings. A solid recruitment by Leicester. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Patson Daka, let's see how he does. Let's see how he does in the Prem. A big step up from the Austrian league, but he's highly touted. Liverpool wanted him. Arsenal were interested in him. In terms of, these are the links that we saw. Leicester have made an amazing signing there, and they had to bring somebody in. They had to bring somebody in because at the end of the day, Vardy cannot go on forever. He cannot continue forever. He really, really can't. He really, really can't. Oh yeah, my little man's good. He's right. You know what kids are like. He kept on being sick last night. I don't really know why, but yeah, this morning, right as rain. The worst part was about 1 o'clock in the morning, he was sick again. I got him out of bed, changed his clothes, put him down for a minute, took all the bed sheets out, put him in the wash. I thought I'd sit on the sofa with him for a little while just to let it calm down because he's a little bit scared because he was sick. And I put him down. He rested his head against me, and I didn't realize he had sick in his hair, and it was all in my mouth. Oh, so I clean his. So I took him in the bathroom, put him in the bathtub, put a bit of water in, cleaned him, got him all sorted out, put him to bed, and then I brushed my teeth. I had a shower and then brushed my teeth for about 20 minutes. I had proper vomit in my mouth. It was terrible. It was grim. The joys of parenthood, man. The joys of parenthood is a madness there. Absolute madness. In terms of other news in relation to some other news out there in relation to Chelsea as well. This is a Matt Laws update that I saw this morning. It says Chelsea are interested in the Wolves winger Traore, and a fee could be agreed between 20 and 25 million pounds. I think that's a fairly good signing for a player of that level. I do. But you know what? It really stands out to me. What I find really interesting about it is sometimes clubs mess up. They could have got about 70 to 80 million for him from Man City 2 years ago, and they said no. They're now getting 20 to 25 million, and they've regressed as a football club. Timing in life is so important. Timing in life is so important. If you want to phone in and have your say, we'll put the StreamYard link in the Chelsea chat room on Discord. I'm also going to throw that link into the live comment section as well. So let's go and have a look at some of the comments here. Terry, did Chelsea have a plan B if they don't land Haaland? Well, of course, we know they've been in talks and conversations with Lukaku. It's still believed by many that that situation can progress. It depends. I think a lot of it is going to depend upon what happens at Inter Milan. So Martinez may be sold, Hakimi's on the way out. Maybe that's enough money. However, if Martinez is sold and Hakimi is sold, there's still the element of how does Lukaku feel when he returns to training under a new manager with two of their best squad members gone? Maybe less money being spent, lesser replacements coming in. What message does that send? If he suddenly comes back to training and doesn't feel, what's the word I'm looking for here? That kind of, he might just decide that this ain't the place for him anymore. So I think there's an element of with Lukaku where it's still, for me, it's still just a case of watch this space with Lukaku. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. It really, really is. Right, let's have a little look here. We're going to have a super chat from my guy, Mark. It's been an absolute pleasure with your donations the last few days. It says, playing devil's advocate, do you feel these high-profile signings will be a detriment to the Champions League? Does it feel special anymore when all our teams are expected to win? Still special nights. Does it feel the same? I think there is this element of fans of... I spoke to a few United fans. I think this is a great way of bringing it around that have said, it's do or die for Ole next year. Win a major trophy or you've got to go. I think that kind of thought process is too extreme because you could be a great team and not win the Champions League or not win the Premier League, but still be brilliant. And as long as there isn't regression, I think you have to think, and forget Man United, just all clubs, unless there's regression, you have to think very long and hard about sacking a manager, in my view. So next season, if Chelsea finish 5 points off the top of the title, but go out in the semi-finals of the Champions League, but they play well, they haven't been beaten up by, they haven't had like the bad Sarri run, the bad Lampard run, dressing room falling apart like under Conte and Jose, then I think it would be ridiculous to sack Thomas Tuchel because you're there or thereabouts. But it's about maintaining that ethos. However, we know with Chelsea, if Chelsea are sitting 5th at December and they're out of the Champions League, Tuchel's getting sacked. So I think if there's regression, then it's right to have high expectations. But you can't all win everything every year. There has to be that kind of realization that you could have an excellent season next year, but not pick up a trophy. But where's your trajectory going? I think that's what's really important. And even with Chelsea, who were like notorious sackers, they tend to only sack when things have gone backwards, as opposed to the only time I've ever seen them sack someone where it was on an even keel was Ancelotti, where you thought he could bounce back next season and win the league. Outside of that, but I hear what you're saying. I think it's about being realistic in your expectations, and it's how you go out, it's how you play. I think is really key to a lot of fans. Thank you, Mark, for that wonderful super chat. Chelsea are ruthless, but their strategy works. I hear you on that one. Terry, back to defending Ole. Listen, I'm not defending Ole. I don't think he's good enough to win a major trophy. But if next year we're in a title challenge and we finish 5 points off the league title and we get to a Champions League semi-final and win an FA Cup, I won't call for him to be sacked, regardless of my own belief as to whether or not he's good enough, because you shouldn't sack a manager when there's improvement and there's no regression, because there is no guarantee that even a better manager improves you from that point. So why undo something that is moving in the right direction? Doesn't make sense to me. If you're in a one-horse race or a two-horse race, so if you play in a league where you're expected to win, like PSG, like next year, if Poch doesn't win the league for PSG next year and doesn't win the Champions League, he will and should be sacked. That is a sackable offence. But Ole not winning the Premier League next season with Man United, I don't think in itself in isolation is outright a sackable offence. You have to look at everything else that's going on. There's 4 or 5 teams that could potentially win it next year, or at least 3 or 4 teams that could win it next year. So I think it's about being fair and judging each situation kind of on its own merits in many, many ways. Let's go to some more of your comments here. Terry, good morning. What's the latest with Arsenal? Smith, long time no speak. It's not you're being polite to me now. You used to be very, I don't know what the word would be. You challenge everything I said. I say good morning, you'd say, is it? But it's nice. It's a nice, polite question. So thank you, Smith. Long time no speak. We know where it's all at. Lokonga is done. Ben White is practically done. Nuno Tavares done. Those two, Tavares and Lokonga, it's just formalities, legalities. They will be Arsenal players. They will be announced very, very soon indeed. No shadow of a doubt. No problems there. They are Arsenal players. Ben White, unless something crazy happens, like another team sort of slips in, again, he's going to be an Arsenal player. There's no doubt about that in my mind. So that's 3 players in. It's about £90 million of spending. With a couple of player sales, you're going to spend £150 to £200 million this summer. So it's going to be a big statement made. And Arsenal are doing some great business this summer. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. Renato Sanchez, don't read too much into responses to friends on Insta. Do you know what I mean? Don't read too much into it, really. But we'll see. Maybe. Arsenal are deep in talks with Basuma. They're also looking at Ruben Neves. But again, the Ruben Neves situation may have just become a little bit precarious for Arsenal because Man United are talking to his representatives as well. Arsenal do not believe they can sign a Neves or a Basuma or even a Ben White if a Man United or a Chelsea or a Liverpool suddenly becomes involved because there's money, there's Champions League football. It's a harder thing for Arsenal to pull off. So maybe they look at Renato Sanchez if Basuma and Neves don't go through. But I think Basuma and Neves are their key focuses, Prem proven. Sorry, I got really sore neck and everything else. I've been killing the gym recently and my body feels like it's falling apart, but it's all good. It's all good. We're going to go to one of our first callers on the show today. We're going to get man like Donny James on the air to have his say. Morning, welcome back to the Terrace. What do you make of the Chelsea transfer news this morning?
I think it's very interesting. Oh, what was that? Oh, there we go. Yeah, it was pretty good. Pretty interesting with Chelsea, to be fair. I mean, look, Chelsea, I expect them to get some decent deals over the line. So I think we'll look at the Hakimi deal now, and we sort of think it's not going to be as much of a big miss as we thought because they're going to get loads of other great deals. And to be fair, Reece James is already a great person in that position. So I think it was going to be very tough competition for Reece James if Hakimi came in. So I think PSG is probably the right move for Hakimi. And I think it's great for Reece James, but maybe Chelsea will look at other options. But I think for other transfers, I think Chelsea are doing some great agreements there. I think the Varane talks are interesting. I think that's going to be very 50-50. We'll see how that goes. I think there's still that doubt about whether he'd be good for United or whether he wants to come to the Premier League or not. Obviously, Jadon Sancho, that's a 2-year saga coming to an end. That's going to be very interesting as well. And I think you mentioned about Arsenal as well, Lokonga and Tavares, they're going to be confirmed deals. By the way, I don't know if you've seen it already, but Leicester have confirmed the signing of Patson Daka. He is signed till June 2026. So that's going to be a brand new 5-year contract. 26 million, I believe, is the figure. Or 23, I'm not too sure. But it has been confirmed by Leicester now that Daka is a Leicester player. He's put out his own message as well on social media. So he seemed pretty confident about Leicester this season. But yeah, I think it's interesting stuff. And obviously, we're going to announce a loan signing this week. So I'm excited to see who we're going to get this week. But it should be interesting. I think there's been some good stuff in the transfer market. So we'll see what happens. And Spurs fans, there's rumours that Harvey White will be loaned to us. If it's true, message me and tell me what you think of Harvey White, because I've been told it could be a big season for him this season in terms of his development. So let me know what you think, because I want to hear your thoughts on Harvey White. It was going to be Alfie McCallum from Leeds, but
there we go. Listen, mate, thanks very much for coming on, having your say.
I've got Just Eat delivery coming, so I've got to get off. Just
Eat at 11:30 in the morning. What are you eating?
I've got a KFC. I'm fucking starving.
It's 11:30 in the morning.
I've got the house to myself. I thought I'd treat myself.
It's 11:30 in the morning, brother. You do you live. Why don't you get some eggs, some bacon, some? Well, you live where there's lots of restaurants. Why don't you get yourself a nice breakfast? What did you order from KFC?
I got myself the 3-piece boneless mini fillets and some fries and some gravy.
For breakfast, you're an animal. You're an animal. You're an animal. Listen, thanks for coming on, mate, and having your say. Top man. Fried chicken for breakfast, bruv. Fried. Do you know what? Do you know what I do like though? Especially if I've had a drink. Cold pizza from the night before, or cold Chinese, is banging for breakfast. You know, when we've had a skinful. KFC for breakfast. That's a madness. I've never heard anyone order that. I suppose if it was 12 o'clock, you'd say fair enough. But do you know what it is? He's ordered it, but he's obviously thought about it well before lunchtime. Listen, each to their own, I suppose. Each to their own. Each to their own. No one else calling in today. That's interesting. Normally we open up our lines and they go mental. Absolutely. Maybe people are just recovering after a heavy night last night. Let's take a look at a few more comments here. No, I haven't had anything to breakfast. I'm doing intermittent fasting at the moment. So I had my dinner at about 7. No, that's a lie. About 8ish last night. So I then won't eat anything until at least midday, 1 o'clock. So I do like 16, maybe 17 hours intermittent fasting after I eat. It's working well. You know, I've lost like how many pounds? I've lost about 16 pounds in 3 weeks, which isn't too bad. So I'm just trying to get in better shape because lockdown destroyed me physically. I had too much fun. Terry, thoughts of people. Why did that pop up? Sometimes I get weird things pop up on my computer. You know, I need this to go away. Thoughts on people making fun of the German girl crying at Wembley. Look, it's interesting, really. Everyone has different takes on that. Some people that I know and respect kind of say that it is funny. I don't necessarily see kids crying as being funny. But I suppose comedy or things that trigger you are subjective. It's not something I would laugh at. It's not something that I don't really get it. If it was a grown man crying or woman, then I think I do find it funny. But then it's the opposite side of things. So I don't think booing another country's national anthem for a game, depends on why you're booing, is wrong. My view is your job as a home crowd is to do whatever you can to put your opponents off. And whether you booing their national anthem winds them up, maybe they overextend themselves or whatever, I just feel like all's fair in that regard. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't bother me in the same way. You know, I maybe it's coming from a background where I've been around a lot of fighters. They will say and do things to each other in the build up to a fight to try and get their opponents to overextend, leave their chin unguarded. I think the same can be said for football. You're meant to intimidate your rivals. And maybe the thought was, it didn't really work, to be fair, but let's go the Germans. They maybe try and come out and really beat us up, but we'll catch them on the break and score goals. You know, it's just, and I think a lot of the time it's friendly as well, if that makes sense. I've seen England, like British fans, go to America to watch boxing and boo the American national anthem. No one seemed to be offended by that. But listen, everyone's got a difference of opinion, whether things like that are right, whether things like that are wrong. And I suppose where I really want to see things in a space is where you're allowed to express that you find one of those things funny or acceptable, and you're not shut down and cancelled. It's like, okay, fair enough. You don't agree with it. Crying, like laughing at a little girl crying, doesn't do it for me. I get no joy from that. Seeing the England fans boo the national anthem, I look at it as a bit of banter. I look at it as it's a bit of a laugh. You know, if our national anthem gets booed in Rome on Saturday, am I going to be upset and cry about it? Not really. I get why people are doing it. That's my thoughts and feelings on that. Someone says weirdos, Terry. Yeah, like each, as I say, each to their own. Like there's lots of things I see people laugh at that I don't find funny. There's lots of things that I laugh at that people say, "Oh, what? That's crazy." But yeah, I mean, the little girl crying, that doesn't make me laugh. That's not something I'd laugh at personally. But each to their own, I suppose. Each to their own. Next on the show, we're going to get Lam in here to have his say with us this morning. Morning, mate. How are you?
Morning, Terry. Morning, Terry. Woke up very happy this morning. Like, what a night. What a night. So, but looking at the transfer rumors here, I just want us to get a striker over the line, whether it's Haaland, whether it's Lukaku. I would even take Lewandowski, because right now, I don't know if we can challenge without a striker. But if we can get Haaland or Lukaku in, then I don't really care what City does. I have confidence in my team that we will challenge no matter what happens. As it stands, I'm not sure if we have, we're missing a striker to basically challenge City. But if we can get a potent striker in, someone that would guarantee us 20, 25 goals, then I think the title, we have to be expected to win the title. And that would be my energy, that we have to go in and win the league, really. And just also touching on the England run, I'm getting the same vibe that I got with the Chelsea Champions League win. I started to believe and saying to myself, we can do this after the round of 16 quarterfinals and seeing our run. And I'm beginning to get the same vibe with the England run as well, because it's tournament football, anything could happen. And it's just football is one of those things here. There's an element of luck and chance in there that you can never eliminate. And say what you will, but I just feel like it now is the time if it's going to happen. And yeah, man, it's something that I can definitely see happening. So I was so gassed about it.
Yeah, do you know what? I totally get and understand where you're coming from. It's such an interesting one for me because I suppose there's two things that have stood out to me in the last 24 hours. The amount of people that hate England fans getting ahead of themselves and getting excited, but yet every other nation's allowed to do it. The Belgians, the Italians, the Spanish will all be thinking like the English are right now. It's opened up because Germany, France, and Portugal were the top three favorites going into this tournament, and they are all out. So it feels like it's open season now. It's a bit like next season. If, for instance, Chelsea and City are going to be number one, number two favorites, in my opinion. But let's just say something goes, I don't know. It's not a knockout. The Premier League isn't a knockout competition. Let's use the Champions League as a better example.
Yeah.
If by the quarterfinals next season, Chelsea, Man City, PSG, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and Real Madrid are all out, the likes of Liverpool, the likes of Atletico, Man United, Liverpool, and say who else may still be in it? Juve. Say those four teams. None of them are going to go into next season, in my opinion, as one of the favourites to win it. Suddenly, they'll all start fancying their chances because the bigger and better teams on paper are out. So that England fans should be allowed to be excited about that, right? The second element is this: the amount of people that I've seen over the last 3 or 4 years always bashing this nation, bashing this country, embarrassed by this country. And I'm talking football here. I'm not talking politics. Suddenly, yesterday, it's coming home, God save the Queen being in tweets. And I'm just sort of like, it's beautiful to see what Southgate and the boys have done because they're instilling, which I think is really, really key, pride, some national pride back into people and into the country and everything else in between. And I just think that's such an important element that's kind of being, I wouldn't say forgotten about per se, but it's almost not being looked at, what they're bringing back in. And I think now that we've got this supposed clear run to the final, I think it's going to be party time now. I think people are going to be, what's the word I'm looking for here? I think there's going to be this sense of, let's just have fun with it now. Like the pressure's off, out of our group, and we've beaten a major team in a knockout tournament. It should just be a festival now. On Saturday, the game's on at 8:00 at night. Most people will be off work. It is going to be a carnage day in the pubs and in the bars and in the restaurants across this country. So, but I'm also happy for bars and restaurants have been shut for like a year. They're all going to be, they're going to make a lot of money this Saturday, so I'm really, really happy for them as well, because it's going to be good for them and their businesses and the families connected. So.
One thing I also want to add, what's different about this run to the 2018 run is that with 2018, it felt like we were playing the teams that we should have beaten, and then when we came across that one team like that actually gave us a challenge in Croatia, we came short. This time, beating Germany in the round of 16, at least we got that out of the way. And now, like, what that would do for the confidence of the players, knowing that they have beaten a big team and they can do it. And that's when I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, they're going to do it. And the other thing is, we're not playing Sweden. I have this thing about like just calm, like, because we beat them in the, 2018 in the round of in the quarterfinals. I didn't want to face them again, just to take that away. But and I feel like now the path is clear, like, to actually go in there. And if in a one-off final against Belgium or Italy, anything could happen, especially at Wembley. That's going to play a big part. And tournament football is just about getting the results. It's not about like necessarily playing pretty football, because we've seen Spain do it and they nearly got knocked out. France, they turn up whenever. And it was entertaining football. Don't get me wrong, I'll take it any day, but just not for my team. I'll take a boring 1-0 win, go home, bring the trophy home, and then we can just party in the streets, really. That's what I'll do. Like, so Southgate knows what he's doing.
Fingers crossed he does, mate. Lamin, thanks for calling in, mate, and having your say. Top man. Thank you. To everyone tuning in this morning, let's keep hitting that like button, please. Just try and get it up to as close to 500 likes as we can. I also saw another bit of news a few moments ago that was sent through to me in the DMs. And Terry, what do you make of this? And it's another article. This is from Matt Law. He's talking about how Chelsea have been told it's going to cost £100 million to sign Declan Rice. Yeah, I mean, Dean Jones told us all that 2 weeks ago now on the Done Deal show, that's how much West Ham United is setting as the price. Will that be able to be negotiated down? Potentially. Could players be offered as bit part exchanges to bring it down? Potentially. I think Declan Rice is going to be a big key to that. And do you know what was really interesting from him yesterday? First 10 minutes of the game, he looked a little out of sorts. He got caught in position, nearly gave a penalty away. Free kick was given. If you thought, oh, wow, how he grew into the game, and then him and Phillips run that midfield. I remember before the kickoff, everyone was saying they're worse than McFred and all this stuff. Is he worth £100 million? No. Is he a top player? Yes. But £100 million for Rice is far too much money. But that's what West Ham are asking for. And then you get into that realms of, well, you're worth as much then as somebody's willing to pay for you. So if Chelsea or Man United think he's worth that much money, then they will pay that much money. So we'll see what happens there. But it's definitely going to change things somewhat. It's definitely going to change things. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But yeah, Declan Rice, £100 million. It was a couple of weeks ago that Dean gave us that information. I'm pretty sure of it. So let's go to another caller here. We're going to get Carl on today. Carl's a Liverpool fan. What are you saying, mate?
I'm great. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm very, very well. What's on your mind, brother?
Well, three things. I didn't get a chance to talk about France from yesterday. I just thought that France was the whole tournament. The whole team felt real weird. It felt that they didn't come to play. I felt it was very underwhelming. I don't know if it's because of Egal. Every time he talks about the team, I feel they just go dead. They just lack purpose. But after all, that was a great tournament. I'm not sure we'll get anything like that anytime soon, because I feel like it's one of those. It's a battle of attrition, not necessarily who got the best skills, who is more healthy, who has the best plan, who's playing better at the right time. Big up to Switzerland. They play a great game, great goals. I mean, I was really surprised, but again, great team win. Yesterday with England, I kind of expected. I mean, Germany is in transition. They're not ready to beat Germany in this tournament. I mean, they need a revamp. They need new ideas, new coaching. They still got a lot of talent, but they just need new ideas in terms of coaching. with Haaland, I don't know if you remember about a week ago we talked about it. Again, agreeing with personal terms with a player don't mean anything until I start seeing real figure about close to $200 million. That's when I'll take it seriously. The 110, the 150, I don't think it's enough for Borussia to let him go.
Yeah, it may very well not be. I mean, as I say, Dean spoke to somebody at Dortmund last week, and they 160 million euro element was when Dortmund would maybe start to look at it, as you say. But to actually get it done, it may need to be a little bit higher. But then let's look at it the other way around. So this Man United have got Dortmund down on their price for the Sancho situation. A lot of it will come down to Haaland. Haaland, how hard will he push for a move? And I think that's why Chelsea have been a little bit kind of quiet from a public stance on what they're doing here, because is Haaland massively pushing for a move away? Not at this moment in time, but that could change with a bid. If a bid goes in of 160, then maybe Haaland's mindset changes completely. It's a bit like the Lukaku situation. A lot of people keep writing that off, but I'm still not convinced that he's going to stay there if a bid comes in or something along those lines. But let's see what happens in that space. Haaland is a very hard deal to get done. I think Chelsea are very, very aware of that. They may end up with a makeshift if they can't get him or Haaland elsewhere. Maybe they focus somewhere else. Maybe they then go all out for a Declan Rice if they can't get Haaland. Next summer, he's available for about 70 million quid. So we'll see. Carl, great call as ever, mate. Top man. Thank you for coming on and having your say. Really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. Next on the show, Josh is here. Josh is a Chelsea fan. Give me your take on the news this morning, mate.
Yeah, I'm really excited about all the news. Like I feel like every day is like the language that they're using to describe the deal is getting it's giving us a hint that it's getting closer and closer and closer. But my question is, Terry, I just have one question for you: is that if Chelsea did sign Haaland, right? Because I was in a space yesterday and people were saying, if Haaland gets 20 goals, 21 goals, like, yeah, it's been a good season, whatever. But I was thinking, like, we're really going to sell Tammy Abraham, get rid of him, right? And then we're going to be relying on this Haaland guy. We're going to spend, let's say, like, 150 million? What do you think is, like, a good, like, goal return considering his age and all of that?
That's a real good question, actually. I think the amount of money you're spending, and I'm looking at all comps here, you've got to be... Actually, no, let's take away all comps. Champions League and Prem combined, for that kind of money, you've got to be putting in 30 goals, minimum, in my opinion, for that kind of cash, 30 goals. Do I think he can do it? Yes. Haaland, I think Haaland is so good, and I've said this before, if you went to City or Chelsea, because of the way you play football, by game 30, if he play, like, let's say he's fit for all games, right? By game 30,
yeah,
he will break the single. He'll break the single goal. I don't know how to word this in the right way. He'll break the goal record for a single season for a player in the Premier League by game 30. I think he will absolutely tear it apart. I think it would just be insane how good he is. But in terms of what he needs to deliver, it's a minimum 30 goals for that kind of money, in my opinion.
Yeah, minimum, right? And then also, I just wanted to move on to England as well. I just wanted to say that I was supporting France, I was supporting Germany, but I believe in us, we can do this, guys. It's really coming home, innit? And I want to be a part of this.
Let me ask you a question on that. I'll ask you a question. Because obviously you say you believe in us, and that's cool. You can support who you want. Why would you back or support France or Germany over England? What's your rationale behind that?
So basically, like, I don't know. When it comes to international football, I don't really like it. So I kind of just watch all the games and kind of just pick my team. So France has kind of been my team since we signed Kante. But this season, just because of Havertz, I don't know. I had this faith in Germany.
I was interested to know why. Like, it could have been parents, whatever. I'm a little like to a degree. Like, I've always wanted Portugal to do well because of Cristiano Ronaldo, because of how I feel towards him. Does that make sense? And like, when England weren't at the Euros in a few years back, or we went out, then it was like, I want France to do well because of Pogba. So no, I hear where you're coming from.
Now, yesterday was a painful game. Like, all my favorite players, when Jack Grealish came on the pitch, my heart was torn. I was like, I need to support this team now. Like, it was the most, like, I was literally supporting both teams until Jack Grealish came on. So it was a really good game. I enjoyed the game yesterday.
Mate, I hear you on that completely. Listen, Josh, thanks for coming on, having your say. Really
Thank you.
appreciate that, mate. Top man. Thank you. Next on the show, Tom Little's here. Morning, mate. How are you?
Did yesterday actually happen? Did it actually happen? Oh, mate, still buzzing over it. Quarters, come on. It's coming home.
Yeah, absolutely. It's astounding result last night. It really, really is. And there's a couple of days now to kind of like wind down and relax a little bit and everything else. And then it'll be full guns blazing again, won't it? It'll be full guns blazing come Friday. I think by like Friday afternoon, it will really start to build up now for a quarterfinal opportunity. Imagine England going 2 tournaments on the bounce into a semi-final. Nobody would ever have believed that.
No, especially before the 2018. Like before 2018, it was just, we're here. Let's give a good account of ourselves, but we're not expecting anything. Now there's expectations as well, and we're living up to them, which is great to see.
Yeah, 110%, 110%. In terms of some of the transfer news that's around today, total agreements reportedly in place for Haaland. Varane talks go on. But one I wanted to get your opinion on straight away, because Liverpool were heavily linked with Patson Daka. It hasn't happened. He's now a Leicester City player. Does that feel like a transfer that's got away from your point of view?
Potentially. I've heard links with Marlon and all that, so maybe he weren't the top target, but it is still a disappointment because he's got clear quality. He's such a good finisher, and that's what we need, really. We don't need another player with pace who runs in behind, per se, because we've got enough of them. We just need someone who you can give them the ball inside 18 yards, and more often than not, it's in the back of the net. So we might look back on it as a regret, but we might have let him go because we've got other targets in mind. So I'm just going to wait to see on that one.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting. Well, look, whenever Liverpool are linked with a player and he goes elsewhere, your press come out very quickly and very, very well to like.
I'm not ready for that. We were never interested in Patson Daka.
Yeah, but the thing with it is, I think a new approach is needed now. Do you know what? Social media has kind of exposed all clubs and their PR bullshit, right? Because it's like you see the same words. It's almost like the same articles. Every time Liverpool sign a player, we all know within 10 minutes there's an article from a tier 1 Liverpool journalist that will mention a rejection of Manchester United. And sometimes when you read into it, it's United inquired about the player 3 years ago, and it's like a loose, crazy link, right? As an example. You always get these things. At the moment, Arsenal, every time a player is interested, it's all about they buy into the manager and the process and the direction. It's the same lines that are just sort of reiterated each time. But social media kind of exposes this because it's then aggregated together and you can see it for what it really is. Does that make sense? So every time Liverpool are linked with a player and it doesn't go through, it's not the right time to spend that kind of money. We were never really in for him. But then it's like, or you get my favorite one with Liverpool is, no, we're not looking at this player now because we've got something big planned in the next window. It's that, do you know what I mean? And your face is, you sort of sit there and feel like, how long are fans going to put up with this kind of, we had it as Man United fans for a long time of no value in the market, no value in the market. No, you're being tight, bruv. Value in the market. You're being tight, brother. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then when we get someone, it's, well, they've been scouting them for 3 years. Ever since they were playing on the 10s football, we've had in-depth scout reports on them. Jurgen Klopp's wanted them for this long. It's like, no, he hasn't. He wasn't going and watching French second division games to go watch Ibrahim Konate. Just understand that we're not stupid. We get that you haven't scouted them for 7 years. Just be honest. I know it's tough with transfers, but constantly spewing all this crap about, the market's not right. If the market wasn't right, you wouldn't have been in for him in the first place. So,
yeah. Do you know what I think is interesting with Liverpool's situation is I was talking about this months ago, and again, this isn't salt. This is just what I see. Liverpool's model is the same now as before you were champions, and it's yes, you went all out and spent big money on Van Dijk, and you spent big money on Alisson. But they're there now. They're there or thereabouts. Generally speaking, it's been players between that 20 and 35 million pound mark. That's generally speaking the amount of money that you spent on the majority of your squad, and you've not gone away from that. What I find interesting, and maybe I've missed it, maybe there have been articles, maybe there have been interviews where this has been said, but I just think they need to be honest and say our model is to buy the next stars that are coming through. Every now and then we might spend big on a player, but that's only if somebody big leaves. You know, do I think for instance, I think for instance, Liverpool would have spent big on Van Dijk, irrespective of Philip Coutinho leaving. Would they have then gone and got Alisson if Philip Coutinho hadn't have left? No.
I mean, the story around that is, remember the Nabil Fekir deal that fell through? That is either you get Fekir and you keep Karius, or you get Alisson. You don't get Fekir and you stick with your midfielders that you've got.
And then again, that got blamed on a bad knee, which has never, I don't think, has occurred since. Like, there's been no bad knee ever since. And it's just this case of, and by the way, there's a lot of pride that should be taken out of the way Liverpool built their squad. They again, it isn't a Disney story. Like they hadn't, because still a lot of money was spent, but there still should be an element of pride in how that was done. But I remember we had, I've actually got a ring said, the agent we spoke to a few weeks ago, I remember getting slammed by Liverpool fans. I'm not watching your channel anymore, just because someone very well connected to Liverpool said, you're not going to sign a star name for big money this summer unless a star leaves, as in for big money. No, I've heard different. So you're being lied to then. Like you're all being lied. You're being lied to. Like you even saw the Sancho stuff that Fabrizio spoke about. Liverpool inquired about Sancho. They moved away pretty quickly because he said that he only wanted to join Manchester United. But at the same time, Liverpool weren't in a position to really try and convince him, because they'd have to sell one of Firmino, Salah, or Mane, and there's no movement on that. So it's one of the. Do you get where I'm coming from? It's just like, that's the truth, and I don't really understand why it triggers people. Well, if I was a Liverpool fan, just be happy. That's your model. Your model was yielded a Premier League and a Champions League in the last few years. It might take you another 2 seasons now to build up a squad again to be good enough to do that. That's just your model. I just think it's a case of Arsenal. Liverpool just need to be more open about that's what their model is, so that everyone's on a playing field and you just know where you are. And I don't get that. Do you get where I'm coming from? I don't kind of get
it's all that stuff about them saying, "Oh, we're not spending this summer because we're going to have a big one," and then we don't have one, and then we're told, "Oh, well, something." The Marco Verratti, next one's the big one. The next one's the one where it's big, and it just doesn't happen. And
sorry, mate. Breaking news: Raphael Varane has just signed his contract to become the new Everton manager. He's the Everton manager until 2024. After 2 weeks of negotiations, he has been approached by some Italian clubs, but the Premier League job was his priority. Rafa Benitez is the new Everton manager. He's a Liverpool legend. And I've said this, but I put Rafa Benitez in your top 4, top 5 managers in the history of your football club. He's a Champions League winner. I think he won. I think he might have won some domestic trophies as well.
FA Cup, yeah.
How does it feel to see one of your greatest managers joining Everton?
It's a weird one, you know. It's really weird. Like, as a fan, it doesn't hurt as much as I feel like it should, because I've got sympathy for him after everything that's happened with the Everton fans and all that. You know, he wants a Premier League job. He's a very, very good manager. I get why they're upset. Oh, we called us a small club a couple of years back when he was the Liverpool manager. What else is he supposed to say? Everton are a massive club, them, aren't they? Yeah, we love Everton. No. He's done that for he lives in Liverpool, his family's in Liverpool. You know, as a fan, I'm thankful for everything done regarding the Justice for the 96 campaign, all that. I don't have any hard feelings towards him. That may change if he goes and beats us, because, you know, just let us have them wins in the derby. You can go do your thing then. But I may not share the feelings of other fans. I've got no hard feelings towards him.
Yeah, look, I think I understand why Everton. The one thing I would say is this: if he delivers, they'll be silent. He needs to deliver and deliver quickly. Interestingly, I mean, I know Spurs are closing in on the manager, but it's been pretty good. I feel a bit sorry for Everton, really, because they appointed Ancelotti, and like within a year or 18 months, like Real Madrid come back in for him. It's hard to keep hold of him, but yeah, look, I think the problem is that Rafa. I do think Rafa's so far past his sell-by date now. I think he's done at the elite end of the spectrum. So I don't know, man. It's an interesting one for me. I want to get your take on one other talking point, kind of from last night's games. I'm seeing talk now of Harry Maguire being spoken about as one of the best centre backs in Europe. Why do you think it's taken so long for fans to realise his quality, or football fans in general to realise how good Harry Maguire is?
Because he's not quick. He's a very good defender. Is he worth £80 million? Probably not to everyone else. But to Manchester United and to England, he's worth more than 80 million. Because that's how important he is. You see it with Hughes when he was gone for the last couple of games. He just looked so shaky in defence. He's a quality defender. Great on the ball. Great in getting his tackles in, heading it away. But he's not nice on the eye. He's not like a Van Dijk who's touch, calm, doesn't break a sweat. He's not brilliant but on the eye. But as a defender, you're not going to get much best on him in the Premier League. That's why he cost 80 million. That's why he's at the top level for England and United, and the captain of one of the biggest clubs in the world, Manchester United. You don't do that by being average.
Mate, and that's my thoughts on that as well, because it's been from an England point of view, it's just been really nice to see him actually get some praise. And listen, I know there's been mistakes in a Man United shirt. There always is. It's sometimes it's timing, right? So before Virgil van Dijk got his injury, I thought there was a handful of mistakes and there's a few bad performances from him, as an example. That was after 18 months of colossal displays. I feel like with Maguire, there was an element of he started well, and then it's almost because maybe Man United didn't achieve what Liverpool did, and maybe his bad form came in a bit sooner than people expected. It was like, see, he told you he was crap. And it's like, well, you've got to judge a player really over, say, a 3 or 4 year period for that kind of money. The vast majority of time in a Man United shirt, he's been excellent. And it's also about who he's playing with. England's defence is better than Man United's in the sense of Luke Shaw and him are next to each other anyway, right? So that's half of it as an example. I think AWB, he's an amazing one-on-one defender. He's young, though. He's up and coming. He's developing, right? Yesterday, there was experience on that right-hand side for the vast majority of the game, as an example. Do I think AWB in 3 or 4 years will be there? Absolutely. John Stones is better than Victor Lindelof. Whether people like it or not, he's light years, in my opinion, ahead of him. There's also a better pivot in front of him that protects that from a defensive point of view, that protects us. Like, all football players are better when they're surrounded by better players. I've never really understood this notion. If you think about all the greatest players in the world of the last 20 years that we rave about, look at them in their pomp and who they played with. They're not sitting there next to Lee Cattermoles. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like we were like, oh my God, Gerrard was the best midfielder in the Prem, and he played with Lee Cattermole for a decade. Yeah, there were a couple of Jay Spearing moments, but it was generally speaking when he was at his best. Mascherano, Xavi Alonso, Lucas Leiva was even a very good football player. He's a Brazil international. We're not talking about a bum here, right? But it's just sort of Lampard. I loved Lampard as a player, right? But look who he played with. He wasn't playing with Tom Cleverley, bruv. Do you know what I mean? He was playing with good people. And this notion that, and then you get the banter, Maguire needs good players to make him look good. Yeah. Now, Raphael Varane certainly looks better next to a peak Ramos than he does next to Longley.
Ruben Diaz has looked shaky this tournament with an aging Pepe beside him.
Well, an aging Pepe, he's looked, and a weaker defence. But if you'd have had Cancelo in that back line as well,
probably would have been a bit stronger.
Maybe a little bit different. Ruben Diaz looked really good. He's a very good defender. But yeah, Stones next to him, a world-class goalie behind him, brilliant fullbacks either side, and an amazing midfield in front of him. It's just that I remember when Man United's midfield become really weak at the back end of Fergie's career. And everyone was slamming, Rio and Vidic are past it. And I'm like, it's not even Rio and Vidic. There's a hole in the middle of the pitch, right? Which means we leak a lot more attacks. And it drags our defenders out of position. If we literally had a solid defense in front of them, we would never have been, the back line wouldn't even be exposed half as much. And I'm not saying banter is fine in football, but everyone knows how good Harry Maguire is. And two things that stand out to me is Jose Mourinho, love him or loathe him, rated him and wanted him. Pep Guardiola fought Man United tooth and nail to sign him. If Maguire had chosen City instead of Man United, he'd be a Premier League winner right now. He would be one. And I actually think they could have stopped you from winning the Premier League the year you did if they'd have sorted that back line out. And it's a madness, mate. It's a madness. But listen, bro, thanks very much for coming on, mate, and having your say, Tom. We'll speak to you again soon. Top man. Thank you. Next on the show, Ram's here with us. Rafa Benitez, one of your greatest ever managers, has joined your biggest enemies. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mad one, but I'm not really surprised it happened. Like, if you think of outside of football, what he's done for Liverpool, the city, and he has such an affiliation with Merseyside. I think if you're on Rafa Benitez, ideally he wants to go back to Merseyside. My main issue is that why Everton fans don't want him. That's my main issue, because he's a top manager. He arguably overachieved with a Newcastle side that wasn't backing him. And if they say that they don't want him because he's a Liverpool manager, I think they have to have a look at themselves. Honestly, they've always had this really weird thing of, we can't have ex-Liverpool players or something like that within our club. We have to keep it strictly Everton. I don't understand why they don't like him. Like, I thought they'll be a little bit more sympathetic after what he's done with the whole. He donated about £96,000 for Hillsborough. Hillsborough cuts deep within Liverpool Football Club and Everton, because no matter how big the rivalry is, they are very closely knit as a group, as individuals. So I'm a bit weirded out by why Everton don't really want Rafa Benitez. I thought there'll be a little.
No, I understand why they don't want him. It's that I wouldn't want Jurgen Klopp at Man United or Pep.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't want it. Do you know the only time I would is if one of your clubs disgraced them. Does that make sense? And say Pep Guardiola left Man City under a cloud and he was bitter towards them, then I would want him because it'd be like pain. But if he leaves, on a King's Parade as their greatest ever manager, I can't even quantify it in words. I don't have the ability to articulate. I'm not a great orator. I can't explain why. It's just almost an intrinsic, deep-rooted feeling that I don't want that at Man United. Do you know why I was happy Michael Owen signed? Because there was a bitterness towards Liverpool fans towards him. Does that make sense? So if Klopp left Liverpool and you all hated him for whatever reason, then I would want him. But if you all love him, I don't want that. I don't know why. I just wouldn't want it. It's something about it would feel. Do you know what it would be like? I'll give you an example of how it would feel. It's like if my brother got divorced from his wife, I could never get with her. That's how it feels. There's certain things you don't touch. That for me is how I liken it to, bruv. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a rule in life. You don't touch your like you don't touch one of your brother's girlfriends or one of your friends.
That's your brother. This is we're enemies. We're enemies.
Yes,
so...
but enemy. There's an element of like closeness amongst enemies. Like there's a thing, bruv. There's almost there's a yin. You know what it is? Liverpool especially. On a footballing sense, I despise you, but shrouded in respect as well. So it's like. I don't know. I can't explain. I don't have the words.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Sort of, but like sometimes in life, you can't explain how you feel. It's just a feeling. And when I think about Jurgen Klopp managing Man United, it gives me a feeling that I don't like. And I don't know what it is. But maybe that's just me. Ram, listen, bro, thank you very much for coming on this morning and having your say. Everybody that's tuned into the Terrace today, thank you. We're back later on this afternoon with our normal afternoon show back as there's no football today. Big done deal show tonight at 9 p.m. Huge Guardian sports journalist coming onto the Football Terrace to give us some major updates in relation to what's going on in the world of football, transfers, Varane, and many other things. Until then, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless.